everything.
I guess I'm not a very common person. I saw it as an opportunity to use the land. Uh, my philosophy on land ownership is that I'm a caretaker. I'm not an owner, and that in the future someone else will be able to enjoy this piece of God's country. Um, so in the meantime, I should take care of it. And through different areas, I became acquainted with herbals, uh, different ones, including ginseng. And so I thought, this is perfect. I've got a perfect place for it amongst the trees. And when I'm gone, and my kids or grandkids or great grandkids or whatever, we'll still have some herbs if they choose to use herbs. And in the meantime, they've got, sugar maple trees. They can make maple syrup. There's wood if they choose to burn, or if they choose to wait till it gets big enough and harvest it. So it all is in just one big plan that I have as far as these woods and this farm and myself. And I think back to when my aunt, who gave us the property, she asked me, what would you do with the farm if you had it? And I thought long and hard about that. And at the time, I really didn't know. But I thought I would like to preserve it. It's been preserved for me by past generations. I'd like to preserve it for future generations so that they can have the enjoyment of being up here and seeing it, enjoying it.
I love the outdoors. I'm actually a really big rock climber, and I love camping. I love all of this stuff. And I look at woods like this, and I think this is wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear that this is something that you planted is it's incredible. It makes
It
me
is
look
incredible.
at everything so different.
Right.
I'm blown away, like really.
It is incredible. And what really amazed me was when I started with the grapevines, it was terribly hard work. And I was green as grass. I went and bought me a saw. I'll tell on myself. First day out, I start the saw up, and I go to cut some of these grapevines, and it doesn't cut. I'm thinking, what in the world? This is a brand new saw. Something's wrong with this saw. I'd put the chain on backwards. Every time I think of that, I think, boy, how green you were, how stupid you were. But you learn, you learn. And it was, I got this cost share to clean, 5 acres maybe at that time. Well, it was in the summer, and Mel Smith from Soil and Water calls me and says, this has to be done by the end of September. I'm thinking, ooh, that's 5 acres. That's a lot of grapevine. So I had got my brother-in-law, my boys, and anyone else I could drag up here to help me. And bugs, mosquitoes, snakes, everything. It seemed like got in the way. Plus, I didn't have these nice paths at that time, so I had to climb up the hill every day. But we finally got the 5 acres done, and Mel approved it, said it was okay. I'd missed a few. I promised, crossed my heart, I will come back and get them, which he believed me, and I did. But yeah, it was a lot of work. But after you take the grapevines and you remove them, and you wait about 5 years, 10 years maybe, and go back to the same area, it's like this. It's unreal. You don't see trees leaning over with grapevines hanging down and destroying the trees, but you see nice straight poles, trunks of the trees, and nice crowns in the tree. I mean, they're healthy, they're growing, they're putting on, new wood, and we always, and this is where the service forester came in. He said, when you do these grapevines, always leave one one area for wildlife. So we'd leave an area, where the grapevines are still for the birds and the little critters that run in the forest. They have something to eat too. So it's sort of a holistic view. The woods is not one thing. It's a whole lot of different things put together. It's beautiful, and if you look at it that way.
Is so you, throughout the time that you were doing this, you were still teaching, so you had a full-time job.
At the time, I was doing most of the timber stand improvement and the planting. I was still teaching. I retired from teaching in '99 from Portsmouth City Schools. Then I became a truant officer at Sydaville Community Schools, and I did that for 8 years. I was doing that. I also my wife and I were the janitors at our church, which is probably 20 hours a week job. It was a part-time job. We did that for 44 years. So I was busy, yeah. But you find time to do what you want to do.
So is agroforestry something that, I mean, would you be able to do this if you hadn't had all of those other sources of income coming in?
What we did as far as planting the ginseng, golden seal, and other herbs, and the timber stand improvement did not take a lot of money. Cost-wise, the seed was really the only expense I had, other than my labor. So would I have done it? Probably.
What about the income? Because I guess what I'm trying to get at is what you've done, is this, a viable source of income for someone that is looking for a way to support their families?
In Scioto County, I would not go into a venture of raising herbs if I'm going to depend upon it for my income. If you're going to depend upon it to supplement your income, perhaps for retirement, I think you could if you made certain provisions before you started. Maybe put some cameras, fence it all in with razor wire, and buy some mean pit bulls that would run on your property. Yeah, it sounds silly, but actually I even thought about that.
I was going to ask why you hadn't done that.
Mainly because of the cost. It would have been very expensive to fence in. If I were to do it again, I probably would clear an area around this hillside, because this is your main area right here. This is prime ginseng property and golden seal and other herbs. I'd probably encircle that with a fence and run cattle and get me a mean bull and have him out there. I'm serious. That way I think people would not come into the property. Signs, forget it. That doesn't work. Shooting, it works, but it's not 100% foolproof. Like I said, there's some people that really know where this is. They've been in here before, and they can watch my car, and when my car leaves, they can say, hey, the old man with the gun is gone. Let's go. And they do every year, to a certain extent. It's not as widespread as what it was before I started shooting, though.